So thanks for joining myself. Thanks for joining the amazing team I've gathered here today. Look, we're going to focus on the property market where we are right now. We've just covered briefly on a Facebook Live about joint ventures. We've gone through the different types of structures. We've gone through when it works, when it doesn't work. And we've had some fantastic questions, Darren. Thanks for joining me online. I'd love to get you online at some point as well. For those of you who don't know, Darren is an Ironman athlete. So huge thanks for joining myself. An amazing time as well, but don't get me off track. Look, property, zone one, everyone knows, well I say everyone, a lot of the community will know it's struggling, particularly prime. But before we did this interview, about an hour ago, you were talking, Augusta and Sachin, about outside of zone one. When we say zone one, we're referring to London, because it's a zonal system. So what should investors be aware of? You're saying zone 2 to 5 is also struggling, is that right, Augusta?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen it in down valuations, when lenders will come back for properties that people are either purchasing or remortgaging. And I've seen it, people bringing deals to me, really trying to scramble to buy certain things now. Well, do you know what, actually, I won't say scramble's not the right word, but I'd say, that they've come and they've already identified as a discount compared to, this time last year. And I personally think it's potentially a really good time to buy in London. If you can find a deal that stacks up in the long run, I think there's some really good discounts to be had right now.
So I've done a little bit of disservice. So I've gone straight to Augusta and forgotten about the guys. So you've got Mahfuz Rahman from Ronald Fletcher Baker Solicitors, dates back to 1948, and Sachin Vekaria. We had a really fantastic discussion off air about prop tech. Sachin, you're involved in prop tech, so you understand prop tech better than anyone else in this room today, I would say. You're involved with a company called Crowd With Us. Your background's with, is it Lloyd's? Have I got that right?
Yes, I used to work for Lloyd's and RBS.
Lloyd's.
For many years.
So, and you understand about, you'll do the deal appraisals for Crowd With Us. What's the vision, not for Crowd With Us, because I'm not sure we're allowed to do that, there's so many regulations, but what's the vision for prop tech? Where do you see prop tech going?
Prop tech I see as just expanding and giving more opportunity for investors who, for whatever circumstances, either can't afford to buy their own property or who just want to invest a little bit of money in the property market. These are the platforms where they can essentially do that. It's pretty much hassle-free. They just have to decide how much they want to invest in, which property they want to invest, and they can reap the benefits of, hopefully decent yields and also capital growth over a period of time. So yeah, I just see it as another vehicle in the property market. It's fairly automated. There's quite strong sort of software behind all the platforms that are sort of providing these opportunities. So it's really about sort of broadening the base of investors in the property market.
Look, Sachin, I know this is not scripted in terms of the blockchain, but I love your definition of blockchain in a layman's world, which you've done better than anyone else I've listened to.
For those who are not familiar, blockchain is essentially the technology that underpins cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, allowing it to function. And essentially, it's a ledger where every transaction of a cryptocurrency is logged and it's transparent. So imagine just many nodes going back X amount of transactions. You can basically go to a node and get information about that particular transaction that took place. So it's meant to make things more transparent, more quicker, and also there's no foreign exchange in transactions. So overall, the whole emphasis is just to make things more seamless from a money perspective.
What's this? It's not just London. Sorry, Darren, because I'm looking at the screen of you guys. Sorry, I missed your question. It's not just London down valuations are happening in the wider southeast. So that's what.
Yeah, I think it was what we were intimating before. Is that I wouldn't say it's a contagion, but it is. We're seeing, when I do a lot of due diligence on what prices are, I'm seeing that houses are staying on the market for longer.
And we were
seeing more reductions. And I think there's still a bit of a disconnect between what owners want for their properties and what now sellers are willing to pay for their properties. But I think slowly that's sort of converging now, and we're seeing it in terms of a downplay on prices.
We were discussing exit strategies, and it's key now more than ever before to consider. Yes, you may sell, but you may have to hold as well.
Yeah.
What do you say to some people who may want to work with Crowd with us in terms of exit strategies? Do you look at what exit strategies do they have? Do you give advice on exit strategies?
If you go to the website, it's very transparent as to how we run, what our model is, and what investors should be thinking of. But essentially what we're doing is encouraging people to invest in property for the medium to long term, 3 to 5 years, so they can ride out any cycles that might happen in the property market and benefit from capital growth as well as good, healthy dividend yields as well. So that's sort of the ethos behind the platform itself.
Mahfuz, I won't ask you anything about blockchain or Bitcoin. Look, just what we did in the previous Facebook Live in 3 minutes or less, just focusing on the different types of structures and also who the typical JVs are. So you mentioned joint ventures and landowners, deal sourcers and angel investors as the typical ones, or some of the typical ones.
Yeah, so joint ventures, as we've mentioned previously, have different flavours depending on what the joint venture parties are. So as you said, there's a typical JV, maybe someone is providing the money and someone is providing the expertise. It may be someone who's already got the property but doesn't have the money to get the maximum value out of that property. So there's different types of JVs, and depending on exactly what type of JV that you're doing, that will have a strong implication on the structure you opt for. And we touched upon 3 common structures in place, which first of all, you may have a structure with a limited company. Now in a limited company, you may not want to have a JV with the landowner, because ultimately that will be a short-term deal. You don't want to be in bed with him for the foreseeable future, because that limited company is a legal entity subject to corporation tax, and it has certain duties, companies account house duties also. So that may not be the right structure for a landowner investor JV, whereas you may opt for a contractual JV. Contractual JV is effectively a JV agreement which fleshes out the agreement between both parties, that for all intents and purposes will be construed as a partnership, because a partnership is effectively anything which is 2 or more people who enter into something with a view to make a profit. So the thing with the partnership, there's a Partnership Act 1890. There's also the concept of joint and several liability. So effectively that means if one person incurs debt in behalf of the partnership, the person who's owed money doesn't have to go to that one person, but can go to the other person, whoever they want, for the whole sum of the money. So that's something else to opt for, and something else which Augusta definitely touched upon, and myself also, is limited liability partnerships. Limited liability partnerships, to a certain degree, are a hybrid between the 2 options, because they offer the limited liability as associated with a company, but are tax transparent also, and you also have a strong subject to Companies House Act also. Whatever JV you do, it's important that each party gets legally represented, especially in a landowner situation, or especially if a JV agreement with someone who's in a financial difficulty and you're trying to help them, because ultimately to get the JV protected is make sure that everyone has independent legal advice, everyone understands what they're entering into, and that's very important to protect your money and your investment.
So I was just going to say a couple things. One is Augusta will be with me on Thursday evening, and Thursday evening is focused on young property professionals. You're so lucky, you've got the mortgage update, the finance update. I don't think we're going to talk about Bitcoin, but who knows, in maybe 5 years time, 3 years time, we might be talking about different phraseology.